Tonight's reading is going to come from Mark chapter 6, beginning with the 45th chapter. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side of Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After saying farewell to them, he went up to the mountain to pray. When evening came, the boat was about out on the sea and he was alone on the land. When he saw that they were straining at the oars against the adverse wind, he came towards them early in the morning, walking on the sea. He intended to pass them by, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost, and they cried out, for they all saw it, and they were terrified. But immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Then he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. The gospel of the Lord. So I read this because right before this, he feeds 5,000 people. And he's been journeying with either his 12 disciples, and everywhere he goes, there's crowds. And every time he goes someplace, either the disciples want to ask him questions or the crowds want something from him, and it's constant, right? He doesn't really get a break. Even when one time he goes home, and he wants to like just have a break, they bring a paralyzed man and they dig through his roof and they drop the paralyzed man in on him. And they just keep clamoring for him. And that's because he has something that they all want. But they have something they can't give him. Peace and quiet. So he feeds these 5,000 people. He's done everything he can, and he says, "Do me a solid, right? Would you get into this boat?" Have you ever done that with your kids? Would you just go watch a movie, and I'm going to go take a bath, and do not bother me for 30 minutes. Don't. Okay? And how many of you guys go into your garage and you work on something? Or you go, "I got to go shop." My sister was great at this. "Would you watch my kids? Because I got to go to the store." And 6 hours later, she'd come back, and you're like, "No, I'm not watching your kids. I know why you want to leave," right? But we all need that. And that's what that chapter was that we were talking about today. We all need solitude. We do. You need time. And, and Bonhoeffer's great. Bonhoeffer's not married. Bonhoeffer doesn't have kids. Bonhoeffer's just a pastor who is very spiritual, and he can think very, wonderful thoughts and have these wonderful ideas. But he's probably never had to be woken up in the morning for a bottle feed or a change of diaper, or been called out in the middle of the night. He can do these things because he's in that kind of a place. But what about the rest of us that live lives that are chaotic? How many of you spent a lot of your time ushering kids around, picking them up, dropping them off, right? How many of you found that you couldn't even find 5 minutes a day just for yourself? And then somebody would give you that wonderful advice. "Well, if you just woke up earlier, if you just did it this way, I do it this way." I'm like, "That's great for you. You have a nanny and you have a housekeeper, and I don't. So shut up," right? And I think Jesus was like, "Listen, I'm human. And I need a break, and I need to refuel, and I need to redo this thing, and I'll be happy to go calm the storm, but just give me a few minutes," right? And he's saying to all of us that no matter where you are in your life, find that few minutes. Even if you have to bribe somebody to give it to you, you need it. You really, really do. And I just pray that however you find it, find it. It might be early in the morning. I'm not an early morning person. I'm not. How many of you are? I'm going to ask a question. We were laughing about my early morning routine, and if you identify with this, raise your hand. I get up, I make a cup of coffee, and I play Wordle. Wordle. And then I play Quordle because I need to know if my brother's alive. Okay, but that's a long story. But we have to have these things that kind of get your day in order. And then some people, what if you're a nighttime person? And you put your kids to bed, and you're supposed to be in bed, and it's your 1 hour that you just get to yourself. And that's okay. However you spend that hour, I know he wants you to pray and meditate and do all these wonderful things. You need to refuel. You really do. We set aside time for worship. We set aside time for fellowship. What God is saying to you is you need your time to recharge just for you. Because when you do that, then you're a better husband, you're a better wife, you're a better mother, you're a better Christian, you're a better member of a congregation, you're better in community. When you don't do that, then you're a bit resentful. And I bet you one of the reasons Jesus wanted to walk right by that boat is because he's like, take care of yourself sometimes. I've had it with you, right? And then he's like, okay, I got to do this. But it's okay. If Jesus took time out for himself, I think it's fine if we do too. And don't feel guilty about it. Even if you have little ones and they're knocking on the door going, Mom, 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 put the earbuds on or the noise canceling headphones. There is nothing they need that can't wait. They just don't feel that way. Or if it's your spouse, there is nothing they need that can't wait, even if they think it does. Because God really wants you to recharge. Amen.